Welcome back to What It's Really Like to Be an Entrepreneur. I'm Vincent A. Lanci.
And I'm Dr. Denise McDermott.
Whether you're already an entrepreneur, are looking to start your journey tomorrow, or are just someone who needs a little extra motivation to get through the day, this is the perfect podcast for you. Each week, I interview a different entrepreneur from across the globe. I will continue to offer episodes in all industries to provide you with many different perspectives. You never know which motivational journey will inspire you most. Each guest will take you through their story and help you learn from their successes and lessons learned. If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate the show 5 stars and continue listening by subscribing. It's time for another episode where we rewind the clock. My guest on the show today is a returning guest from season 3. I met today's guest by taking a chance when my first book, Left for Dead, A Story of Redemption, came out. I researched the top mental health influencers in the field to potentially make a difference with, and today's guest was on all of the lists I found. She has been in private practice since 2001 as a medical doctor with board certifications in both adult and child psychiatry. As we learned on her first episode, she has created a worldwide brand. Her amazing work is done under the Dr. Denise umbrella. We heard about her Dr. Denise Show podcast last time, but has since done incredible things, including her Keep It Real show, her new company in Ascension Media, a mental health DocuSeries, and so much more. You were about to learn about all of these things and what it took to accomplish them, the behind-the-scenes work. I'm excited for you all to learn about it, so allow me to introduce Dr. Denise McDermott. Denise, thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, Vince, thank you so much for having me again. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. Would you mind please reintroducing yourself to our listeners and previewing your story without giving away too much of your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Dr. Denise, and I am a mother, a healer, a doctor, a podcaster, a producer, and I just keep adding director. So a lot of different hats I wear. But the most important thing is the inspirational part for me and the creative mind and the entrepreneur mind. Every day is like a new adventure.
Yeah, so let's think back. When did the first episode on your Dr. Denise podcast come out? And how many listeners do you have now? Because I know it's so incredible.
Oh, wow. You know what's interesting? The first time I did this was in 2016 with Gary Goodrich, an MMA fighter.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because he has traumatic brain injury from fighting. So that's actually a really interesting synchronicity with me meeting you. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm just about to launch onto multiple podcast things. Vince, I was literally doing it like a business card. I was using my podcast as a business card. So I think I have 30,000 downloads, but I hadn't done any advertising. And now I've got news that I'm going to share. So that's going to change.
Yeah, well, I'm very
I
excited
want
for
to get
everybody
that
else.
away.
Yeah.
There's a lot to share. So I've met people high quality. I guess it's less is more. So my podcast started in 2016, and now things are about to just pop with the opportunities we're going to be discussing.
Yeah, I'm really excited for everybody to learn all of your great accomplishments. I think this is a great time to get into the big 5. As you remember, on each episode, I ask every new guest the same series of 5 questions to help the listeners really learn what it's like to be an entrepreneur. For Rewind the Clock episodes, we have a big 5 of its own. Are you ready to go?
Woohoo! Yeah, let's do this.
Great. So it's been a while since we last met, and I'm very happy to see your continued success. But let's revisit the business you introduced on your first episode.
Great. So a couple things. As you said, I'm at the Dr. Denise umbrella. And since then, the Keep It Real that we were filming for, we ended up, Jarnell Stokes, shout out to him. He came back from China. He was about to win a championship. He made it out of China just in the nick of time. You can listen to that episode with COVID. They were about to win the championship. He's a power forward. And he and I did do a whole first season of Keep It Real show, which made us realize how much synergy we have. And I think our next step, because we have so much content from all the times we filmed, is we're going to work on a champion mindset, either book, lecture, docuseries, and we also have a sizzle reel. And we want to do that before we do season 2. We have so much content. I don't know everyone out there as an entrepreneur. Sometimes you have lots of content and you need to package it. So that's really exciting. And then I think that there's also the launch of Ascension Media. And I think what we can do is we can talk a little bit more about that, right? So since season 1, that goal that I had with Keep It Real has been birthed. And now it's just evolving into something new, and it's exciting. It's going to be taking all the pearls of wisdom and packaging it and really knowing your audience with kind of the athlete and me being a psychiatrist and thriving.
Yeah, the birth of these projects is a great testament to persistence and that things take time. We were talking about these ideas percolating your mind, and now you brought them to fruition, and we're focusing on a second season. So, like you said, let's continue talking about Ascension Media and all of the new entrepreneurial endeavors you've begun since your last episode.
Oh my goodness, everyone. Thank you. I'm so excited. So I know the pandemic's been tough, but I literally, since the pandemic, I haven't even counted. I've produced over 40 something shows. And that momentum, I had the free time in between doing telehealth and seeing patients to have more creativity. So then I got very artistic with the different shows I was doing and guests, and I can't wait to have you on. So what happened was I had a shout out from Charles Maddox, who is Bob Marley's nephew, who is an award-winning director. And so one of the newest announcements is I'm lead doctor and producer for 8 Days Mental Health DocuSeries. We're in pre-production, raising capital. And with that being said, entrepreneurs out there, I had to make the decision to start a new company because I wanted to house all my entertainment meets education meets mental wellness endeavors under a new roof. So it's really an extension and a birthing of all my Dr. Denise and media projects. So my company is called Ascension Media, and I'm launching it. It's so exciting. I think this show is going to be released in a month or so, but I'm launching it next week. So it's going to have launched in October, and it's not just me. It's everything I dreamed of. I have an altar where I put my wish list, and I really wasn't so comfortable with it always only being the Dr. Denise show. I like that. I like the branding, but for me, we're at a time in society with integration and cooperation. And so I'm really excited. I have a whole Ascension team now that you'll hear more about. And what we're going to do, we have everything. It's called like ascend through the medium you choose: television, podcast, fashion, music. And since then, we have a show that's being released next week. We're recording The Ascension right before the election. Each of the shows is going to have a universal truth with a special guest. And we're going to be starting out with, of all things at this time in history, integrity is the focus of our first show. And the people on the Ascension show are Emmy award-winning news producer Kathleen O'Toole, my spiritual black doppelganger, Dr. Andrea Best, who's also an integrative psychiatrist, entrepreneur, and just amazing. You should have her on the show. And then also, this is really progressive. I have a high level of intuition. Many of us, I do. But the other co-founder that I asked to be co-founder with me is a practicing medium. So she's the Ascension medium. She's done FBI profiling for 10 years, given all pro bono time, helped solve crimes. So that's my team of ladies for the Ascension. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's really exciting. I think it's another great lesson in there where you need different perspectives, different mindsets, different paths, because one person can't do everything as much as we want to. You have to work as a team, and it seems that you took the time to assemble the right team.
Yeah, and I think right now, I don't know about you, Vince, it's so important that when we turn on our phones or our television or our screens, that we're mindful of what we let into our awareness. And so for me, putting out positive vibes, medias, and talking about very difficult topics in the news, but also add that sense of hope
Mm-hmm.
and empowerment instead of just being left with a fear-based message is very, very important to me. And I believe your perspective, our viewers' perspectives, and our colleagues' perspectives all matter. So it's exciting.
Yeah, it is. And we've all been going through this COVID madness together. So it's always great to have positive news come afloat. But let's talk about COVID-19 and how it's affected all of your entrepreneurial endeavors. And let's start with the first endeavor you brought on the show.
Well, I think it was really, it's very sad about COVID, but if Jarnell Stokes had not left China, we would not have done a whole season together. So we literally had more time with our friendship. He and I met on Twitter 2017, 2018. We met in person and started doing filming. So COVID allowed a lot of us to have access to people that normally would be a little busier.
Mm-hmm.
I would have been with more patients. Well, actually, I do still have a very, very busy practice, but Jarnell would have been on the court winning a championship.
Right,
So
right.
I was fortunate to knock out a season and know that I really believe in him. So that's exciting because that's a relationship that's going to keep growing.
Yes.
And then also, I think I've already mentioned the Ascension Media has been birthed now with Charles Maddox. I've learned a lot about the industry. Oh my gosh, I have other good news. Because of my Dr. Denise show, I was at a really cool 4th of July outdoor event, and I met someone named Matt Coleman. And within 90 seconds of meeting him without knowing his roster, I said, you really need to meet Simonetta Lean, Matt Sarafa, and Jarnell Stokes. And I was right. They're now going to be joining as educators for the Hollywood Creative Academy, which is geared towards millennials 18 to 30. That's launching right now. It just launched yesterday. And there's educational classes because during COVID, where a lot of us are trapped, a little bit more in quarantine. So the reason why I'm sharing this is then I not only referred those people from my podcast, but I guess I was doing such a good job with helping them and trying to raise capital that now I'm officially on the advisory board of
Wow.
the Hollywood Creative Academy, and the section for me is called Creative Minds. So now I'm going to be having access to people that have put like Macy Gray on, worked with Michael Jackson, worked in film, fashion, digital entertainment. And then the goal with that for me personally is that high level relationship is going to allow more just distribution channels. And it's global because the Hollywood Creative Academy has a huge influence in China, and all of the courses are going to be translated from English into Mandarin, also English into Spanish. So a
Right.
lot of cool things have happened during COVID.
Yeah, thank you for sharing the positives. And with all the success, you obviously have advice from certain people throughout your life. What was the best piece of advice you were ever given, Denise, and who is it from?
I will tell you, Vince, it was from my dad. Right before I left to go off to college, he just said, make sure you use all the gifts God gave you. So he really empowered me to, I played sports. So, be your best athlete, be the best friend, sister, if you're married, wife, entrepreneur. And so he said, it was like almost like a infinite statement. Use all the gifts God gave you. So really show up with your A game. And I've always thought about that. And it's a very important message, very simple. And, he's, I believe, in another realm, but it was a very profound advice and I stick to it. And I tell everyone, use all of your creativity, all of your entrepreneur spirit. Don't hold back.
Yeah, you definitely embody that mindset where if you're going to do something, give it your all and let the quality of the work speak for itself. So I think that's a great lesson there. But as entrepreneurs, we are constantly learning. If you could recommend one book to our community of entrepreneurs, which book would it be? Who's the author? And tell us about it.
I thought about the first one that came to mind when I saw that is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And it's been so long. I read that book like 20 years ago, but it was like universal truths. And if you go, they have a whole thing now on Forbes, Think and Grow Rich. So you can check out, it's like the how to follow through, how to have the abundance mindset instead of scarcity. So I think it was really great. And then there's one more book that I just have to say that's more for everyone because I'm in the wellness and healing is You Are the Placebo by Joe Dispenza. Because it's really interesting because Napoleon Hill takes that attitude from a business perspective, and then Joe Dispenza from a healing and wellness, how powerful your mind is and how we can overcome things. So I think those would be powerful, powerful reads.
Yeah, I think that's a great recommendation for everybody. And Denise, as you remember, it normally would be time for the Spotlight story, but instead on Rewind the Clock episodes, I want to give my guests the opportunity to shout out and bring light to another entrepreneur's endeavors, someone else who is grinding and making some noise. So who would you like to show some love to?
I've already shown some love to him, but I'm going to do it right now. I want to give some love to Jarnell Stokes. Shout out to Jarnell. You should definitely have him on the show. So not only is he a power forward, Olympic gold medalist, but he has stoked media, he has stoked superfoods, and I'm so proud of him. When he was going through his most difficult time with an injury where 1 minute he's making the big bucks in the NBA, then he had an injury and didn't know if he'd ever play. And then during that time, he wrote this script called Breaking the Cycle. And you're not going to believe this. It's a parallel process of what went on with the civil unrest. So his script looks like it might get picked up for some big television. So shout out to Jarnell because you're using all the gifts God gave you. He
Yeah,
really is.
we
He's
had
like a
connected.
superhero. Yeah, you got it. I'll introduce you guys.
We had connected on Instagram a while back, and then COVID has seemed to got in the way of everybody's business plans. So yes, we do need to reconnect. But Denise, thank you so much for coming back on the show today. I know our listeners are going to see all the value in your episode. I loved how you remained the positivity, talked about all the new things, the opportunities you had because of COVID. You mentioned Jarnell was able to come back from China, and I'm really excited for everybody to share that platform. I loved how you carried your dad's advice still with you, and it's true. All of God's tools, use them. But it is time for the last word. And as you know, I do this on the other podcast series, A Mental Health Break with Vincent A. Lanci, because I want the listeners to really get to know my guests. Is there something you would like to share with everybody listening that we did not get to touch on yet today?
I would say be humble, be grateful, and actually to pause. When you have a successful call or an email, or if you're having fun in the process, stay in that moment of now. So many times we think it's when we actually get that big check or we do this. But for me, like this moment with you is really special to me because I can already envision you with your new book. So stay grounded, stay present, stay in the now, and be humble.
Yeah, absolutely. Great advice. Can you now please share all of your professional social media, the website, ways for our listeners to request your services or follow your endeavors?
Yeah, fantastic. So on all my social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, it's at Dr. Denise MD. And then my website's drDeniseMD.com. And now the new launch is ascensionmedia.love. And we'll have our social media handles for next time I'm on the show.
And it's social media time for the show, and we're on whichever platform you like to use. We're at What It's Really Like to Be an Entrepreneur on LinkedIn, at Your Favorite Morning Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, and at Podcasts by Lanci on Twitter, so you have updates from this show and A Mental Health Break with Vincent A. Lanci. If you check out my books, DM me. I would love to hear from you all. We have Mr. Lanci Talks Mental Health, Left for Dead, A Story of Redemption, and How to Transform Your Mindset When the Norm is Changed. All are on my website now, which is vincentalanci.com. And as always, I will end the show with a quote that inspired me and know it will for you too. This one is from Henry Ford. When everything seems to be going against you, remember that the airplane takes off against the wind, not with it. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you all on the next episode of What It's Really Like to Be an Entrepreneur.